Game Breaker TV.
You gonna do this show again? Another week? Did we get like canceled or something? Seriously, can somebody like cancel this show? I'm kind of sick of doing it. Can we get like a program director? Somebody just be pissed at our ratings? Oh shit. What's up everybody? Welcome to Legendary. I'm Gary Gannon. Coming up tonight. Patch 5.2 is finally released. We'll get to give you our thoughts on our first experiences. Multi-boxing gets shut down, and Brian Holinka saved the World of Warcraft PvP. You don't know his name, but I think you're going to know it a lot more in the coming weeks. All that more, but first, from TechSpot.com, weekly Mario PST. Sold out! Josh Allen.
I'm using a new hair gel. Can you tell?
I can. It's a little bit more Kirk Hammett-esque.
Yes.
It's a little.
It's very,
it's kind of keeping it. It's kind of keeping it tight and shiny.
I think I might need a haircut. At least around this section right here. Just get it out of the eyes so I can see properly. That'd be good.
Come on. I want to call you Claudio someday. And from Greybaker TV, it's Olivia Grace. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I do not have a new hair gel. I have no new hair products at all. I'm afraid. I'm sorry to disappoint.
It also appears that you can see, so that's
it's this whole thing here. It's this whole eye area, be devoid of hair.
I am not using new gel or anything. All right, we got tons of show. Let's do it. Pretty big topics to talk about today. First up, let's talk about the patch 5.2. Dropped on Tuesday in North America, Wednesday in the EU. Olivia?
The EU.
How was patch experience? Any bugs? Any extended downtimes? Anything of the sort?
We had what was it, like an hour, 2 hours of extra downtime in North America. Since then, nothing. I guess there's some bug with Real ID or something where I don't know the details of it, but you can disconnect people or something by using Real ID now. That's new. Don't have random people on your Real ID friends list, I guess is the moral of that one.
That's an interesting one. I haven't noticed that at all.
But other than that, I haven't had so much as a Lua error. I just logged in and everything worked. Nice. And I was like, all right, let's go.
See, in the EU, because LA areas were so kind as to test the launch for us, we actually had minus 1.5 hours of extended downtime.
Minus 1.5. Well, yes. Maybe Maxis should take a little bit of
a leaf out of that WoW book. Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe the EU SimCity launch is all going according to plan.
Yeah, it just trickled right
over.
We
figured it out. We figured out Blizzard stole EA's servers.
Ooh, there we go. There we go. Repurpose them to play WoW in Europe. Thanks, guys.
I was just figuring that the poop from Gamebreakerville just secreted into the EA servers, and now it's just a big shitstorm. Josh, how's the rating going so far?
It's been good. We've only raided once yet, just because how our schedule works out. We've only had one night in there so far, but we got 5 bosses down on the first night. That's not bad.
That's pretty impressive.
Considered. I mean, well, okay.
What, you guys take your training wheels off? What's going on?
By hardcore rating guild standards, we probably should have done a little bit better. If we look at months behind as serious progression focused hardcore raiders, then probably should have done a little bit better than that because it's normal modes. But I'm still fine with it. We killed 5 bosses, man. We got to kill Megara, and that was awesome. So, yeah.
Give me a golf clap. Liv, I know the PvP season hasn't started yet, but what's going on there? Any major balance things going on?
Yeah, we've got kind of, obviously the PvP season, the rated PvP season doesn't start for another week. Imagine if they did that to like some big chunk of PvE. Imagine if they switched off dungeons. Whoa. Anyhow, moving on from my slight no PvP rage. Yeah, we've got some kind of weird thing. There was this thing brought in 5.2 where they scale up your level according to your battleground bracket. So if you're level 85 in the 85 to 89 bracket, they make you 89 and they increase your health pool and they increase a couple of other sort of your base stats, basically, are increased. So the way they implemented this seems to be a little bit buggy at the moment. So, for example, you go into a battleground as an 85, and if you think about it, like, hit rating comes in points. So you've got number 2,000. It's probably a completely rubbish number. 2,000 hit points, and that gives you, at 85, 15% hit. Again, numbers out of the air, not actual math or actual in-game numbers. Scale yourself up to 89, and that 2,000 points of hit rating only gives you 5% hit. So all the 85s can't hit anybody. And the same stuff's happening like all over the place. They haven't scaled any of the gear. They've only scaled base stats. So wherever you have a bracket that occurs across an expansion break, so like the late Wrath, early Kata bracket, where the Kata Greens come in at 77, 78, and just wreck the place, the people who are level 75 and 76 still can't get those. So they're still being completely steamrolled. And low level, heirlooms, so remember what I was just been saying about how gear isn't scaling with your level, heirlooms are scaling with level. So
it's a good thing season hasn't started yet.
Well, it's only in the random battlegrounds, but wow, this is kind of a what? It's just like, how could you mess this up like this? I'm really hoping it's just someone forgot to check a box.
I was going to say it's a box check. Yeah, anything like this, it's gunship. Just point to gunship.
Check
Head over to gunship. Head over there. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So hopefully this will be fixed really soon.
Liv, your audio might be off this week. I don't know what it is. Check it.
Oh, really?
Might have the wrong mic. Not sure.
Let me double check that whilst I do something else.
Josh, you've already got your Warlock screen fire, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
I'm so incredibly green right now. It's the best thing ever.
Standing in green stuff?
I'm apparently incredibly lucky. I already not only found a tome for myself, but then I found another one afterwards that I gave to one of the warlocks in our guild because I'm a nice guy like that. And I went out and I did the warlock quest. Took me about 2 hours, and I got my green fire. Yay!
I mean, is it weird that you were able to finish that within a couple of days of the patch dropping? It seems kind of short. I mean, well, so are all warlocks just going to have green fire within a week or two?
I think there are a lot of factors to consider. First off, I'd already done it on the PTR, so I already kind of knew the last fight already. I'd already experienced all of it, and I'd had that time. Not just, like, anyone who's spent any large amount of time doing any sort of PvE content in the game will understand, and I know you guys understand this too, that knowing how to do a fight and actually being able to do the fight are two completely separate things. I'd already gone from the knowing how to do it into the being able to do it on the PTR. I'd already gone through that whole thing. They've actually buffed the last boss since the PTR too. He's got more health now, and they made the Fell Hunters like just ridiculously crazy to actually deal with. I won't go into detail, but it's like really hard to actually deal with those things now. But basically that just meant that I had to spend a very, very small amount of time actually learning how to approach the thing. So that I think is a bit, plus the fact that I'm heroic geared from tier 14 already. That I think helped quite a bit. I think most warlocks, especially ones that hadn't done it on the PTR already, are still going to have quite a bit of trouble, actually. In fact, somebody was tweeting earlier to Dave Kosak and Ghostcrawler, who's like, this is completely and totally unobtainable. There's no possible way to get green fire right now. And I couldn't resist. I sent him a picture of my warlock with green fire, and I was like,
oh, the burn.
Flash flex.
And then Ghostcrawler was like, grats. So I was like, yay.
That's interesting. There's such a disparity there. So I guess maybe like within a month, most people will figure it out instead of, you think, a week or two, maybe like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
It won't take too long. It's more going to be a matter of getting a hold of the tome before too much longer, I think. By the time people have tier 15 gear, actually getting that fight down won't be a big deal. It really just comes down to understanding a couple mechanics and being able to push some serious damage at certain points of time. So once people have got a little bit of gear, it won't be a big deal.
All right, so there's a ton of stuff that came in the patch, but there were a few things that we were expecting in 5.2 that actually didn't make it. So we didn't talk a lot about this on Legendary, but there was supposed to be some new heirloom shields added to the game. They didn't make it. And there was also supposed to be a new engineering mount called the Sky Claw that also didn't make it. Blizzard jumped out and commented on both of these, basically saying that there was some sort of last minute issues with them that caused them to pull them out at the last minute. I don't know. Any idea what sort of issues they could possibly run to? I mean, how hard can it be to add an new heirloom?
Weirdly enough, considering what we were talking about just now, one of the things they said was that the heirloom stats weren't scaling right.
Weirdly enough.
Level 1 players with level 90 shields.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that could be a problem.
Level 3 paladins firing Avengers shields and like exploding the entire world or something. Yeah, so interesting. They might have some scaling issues at the moment. I'm beginning to wonder.
So they are planning to add them back once they fix the bugs, I presume. Do you think you have to wait to 5.3 to actually get them, or do you think they'll put them in like a between patch hotfix?
Yeah, I would hope that if it's just something simple like the scaling wasn't working or whatever was I don't actually know what was wrong with the engineering mount, but like the model wasn't sitting in the mount properly or something like that. If it was something along those lines, I would hope that doesn't take until 5.3 for them to be able to fix it. So hopefully we always end up getting like the little interim patches, like a 5.2.2 or something like that. Hopefully they'll be able to get them in by then. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I hope so, because I was really looking forward to that. Finally, another fun thing for engineering to do. So they took Pierre, the cook stove pet, out as well for engineering. So sad-faced engineers right now.
There's something else that's got a lot of people up in arms today. A lot of multi-boxers are kind of freaking out. So the /follow command, as a patch 5.2, /follow no longer works in battlegrounds or arenas. No one knew this was coming. Seemed like they really kind of tried to keep this one kind of quiet. So somebody, just so everyone watching the show is kind of on the same page here, why is this such a big deal for multi-boxing?
Well, basically, the way that the multi-boxers work is that they have normally, not 100% of the time, but they normally have one sort of master and several slave characters. And the master is sort of the main box which they're controlling, and the slaves have through commands and sort of programs that link their keybinds together from window to window or from machine to machine. The slave bots follow the master bot. If you go on YouTube and just search some battlegrounds multi-boxing footage, you'll see it. It's really obvious how they work. So the removal of follow is it's really a big deal. It's not going to make it impossible, I don't think, but it's going to make it a heck of a lot harder to do multi-boxing in battlegrounds.
Kashyap took to the forums like he does when he's got something to say, when he's not kidnapping people or ruining people's lives. He said, we disabled /follow from use in battlegrounds to curb some of the most basic types of bots that use the command. We chose not to communicate it beforehand in attempts to catch as many bots as unaware as possible. He said, we did consider those who use /follow for other reasons, including multi-boxing, before making the change. Multi-boxing in battlegrounds has been a long-fought battle within the community, as the effect of multi-boxers in those situations is considered unfavorable by many. When we were looking to make a change to disable a command used by bots, which would benefit the game as a whole, we were okay with it also resulting in multi-boxing in battlegrounds going away due to the poor experience it can create for others. And as I'm reading this, I'm sort of trying to watch the forums here, and all I see is good riddance. Thank God. Screw multi-boxers. We've talked a lot about bots on Legendary in the past, but we've never really, I can't remember us ever really hitting on talking about people who are multi-boxing. We don't really talk about that too often.
Sort of sweep that one under the rug. It's not real.
Yeah, exactly. No, Josh, what's your thoughts on the whole practice of just multi-boxing in general?
I never had a huge problem with multi-boxing myself. I'd always it was sort of like I took a very Steve Irwin approach to multi-boxing in Battlegrounds. I'd get in there and be like, crikey, a wild multi-boxer out in the open. Let's observe it in its natural habitat. And I just follow them around and watch them do stuff until they inevitably killed me, and then I'd come back. Because I just kind of, as soon as that happened, when I go into a random battleground, I'm like just super casual mode when I'm in there. I don't take anything about it seriously at all. I'm in there to, when I'm on my rogue, I'm in there to be a jerk and also to see, just to have some fun. That's all it is. So I get in there and go, okay, well this battleground's out the window. I don't care now. Whatever. This one doesn't matter. Let's see what happens here with the multi-bot. I always thought they were kind of interesting to watch. That said, I know a lot of people are not like that, and they get into these random battlegrounds, and they're like, no, we have to win. That's the most important thing, is we have to win, because I need my honor, I need this, I need all this other stuff. I totally understand and respect that line of thinking, too. So, looking at it from the perspective of someone who gets into a battleground, sees 5 people who are all named, like, Shaman 1, Shaman 2, Shaman 3, etc., and they go...
Not even trying to hide it, just like...
No, not even. There's a very famous multi-boxer on Kill Jaden who's just got 10 DKs called a Red 1, a Red 2, a Red 3, a Red 4, a Red 5, a Red 6, a Red... He's got a guild full of DKs.
Yeah.
They don't even try to hide.
Do you guys both agree that the general consensus across the board for everyone else who's a non-multi-boxer, probably this is a pretty big deal? Because I'm sure this is pissing off the multi-boxers, but I feel like almost everyone else is probably happy about this.
I think the sum total of the people who were annoyed by multi-boxers and the people who were annoyed by bots is a considerable multiple of the number of players who are multi-boxers. Maths.
I heard numbers, and that was it. My brain just went.
Well, it's been funny because Blizzard's always been kind of like, I don't want to say they've never been like officially okay with multi-boxing. They've not really like supported it, but they just sort of like let it be and kind of turned the blind eye, I guess, so to speak. Why do you think all of a sudden this change in 5.2? While it's not like this just cropped up last week. I mean, people have been doing this for quite a while now. So why change now?
Well, I think it is like Bashak was saying, from what he was saying on the forums. It sounds like it was something that they sat down and they said, okay, what's a way we can get rid of at least some of the bots? And I know it doesn't get rid of all of the bots, but at least some of the bots. How can we disable some bots? Everybody's come across that guy, like the priest, where you're in a battleground, you're like, wow, I've got a pocket healer, and you realize that they're just following you around everywhere, and you're like, oh, this guy's not actually doing anything at all. And as soon as I died, he just wandered off and chased after somebody else. Great, fantastic. Thanks for your contribution, asshole. But it gets rid of those bots at the very least. So then it just kind of seems like something where Blizzard was like, okay, well, we can turn this off, and that at least gets rid of these really, really basic bots. So why do we keep this around just for the sake of, like, why does it need to be there at all to begin with? I saw it was kind of funny. You look through some of the forums, some of the forum posts, and some of the people who are trying to come up with other reasons to have /follow in PvP other than multi-boxing or botting, and they'll be like, well, what if my desk catches on fire and I need to go get some water from the kitchen and it's a very long way away, so I need to continue to
these are like the same
people.
excuses. These are the same posts of when people get caught actually, you know, breaking rules and cheating and gaming the system. It's also like, I didn't exploit that thing. My dog stepped on my keyboard.
My dog is wind trading. You should ban my dog.
Exactly. Blame Sophie.
Sophie.
Bad. Does this pretty much kill off multi-boxing though? Like, what are multi-boxers gonna do? Is it just that it's gonna just make it more difficult?
Ooh, robot service. Stand by.
Yeah,
really big. Big robot service moment there. I don't think it kills off multi-boxing. It just makes multi-boxing a lot harder to do. My screen is completely frozen, so I'm just going to assume that yours is still working.
Nah, you're all fine. You keep going.
Oh, good. Excellent. But yeah, I don't think it completely kills off multi-boxing. It just makes it a lot harder to do because they lose a lot of the control of the slave characters. And I guess they might have to steer them. I'm sure there'll be ways that people can continue to multi-box. I can't imagine it's going to be the end.
Josh, I want to hear what you're saying, but before I forget this thought, I actually now, if you're a multi-boxer watching Legendary and you now have to do this without /follow, please send us a video. Like, I would love to see you like with like 5 keyboards and mice and just trying to go crazy. Like, I would really like to see that now that this is not implemented anymore. Josh, go ahead.
Well, just going to say the other thing is that this only applies to PvP. /follow still works everywhere else. Mm-hmm. So the people who would multi-box, like I know there's people who multi-box like dungeons or something. Like they'll get a whole bunch of shaman and a tank is like their main thing, and they'll be like, okay, well, everything just attacks this. It's all bound to one of them heals me, the rest of them cast lightning bolt, and then I just sort of stand here and tank things. I know there's lots of people who do stuff like that. They're considering disabling it in arenas, because if you really want to multi-box 3v3s, I guess, go for it. It's not like there's a random queue for like solo arenas. At least not yet, anyway.
What does that say? What does this say? What does that say for like the PvE bots though? Why did they just not use the /follow at all? Or
no, they do. It's just they only disabled /follow in battlegrounds and arenas. That's the only place that it doesn't work. Everywhere else, /follow still works. So you can still use it for being lazy, running back from wipes and stuff. Like, hey, come here so I can /follow you, so I don't have to actually control my character to get back to the boss or everything. It still works everywhere else. It's only in battlegrounds and arenas that it's disabled right now. So multi-boxing anywhere else still works just fine.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think this will do to bots, Olivia?
I hope it will. I really hope it'll decrease the number of bots. I mean, it's so hard to tell, is the honest answer. Like, I mean, I don't know. I've never used a botting program, so I can't honestly really tell you much about how many of them would actually use the /follow command. I really hope it decreases them a bit.
What a botter would say.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've never used a bot at all, Blizzard. Why did you ban me?
Yeah, exactly. I never win traded. I didn't, actually. Honestly, I didn't. That's what a win trader would say. I'm so pleased you had the gopher queued up. Good job, Gary.
It's close. Just take back a second.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You think it's going to have a big effect, though? You guys think that this is actually going to have an effect on the number of bots you see?
It's funny. I've been watching chat room while this is going on. I see people saying, no, bots have their own pathing. Some bots do. Some bots don't. There's lots of different bots. There's many different bots available. There's a lot of them. Really, the most basic ones, all they do is /follow somebody, and they'll like cast spells on them from time to time. I've had, for some reason, it always seems to be a priest too, like a discipline priest. He'll /follow me and bubble, and it'll be amazing because then I'll like stealth or something, and they don't see me anymore, and that's it. They're like, well, I'm lost now. I don't know what's going on.
Now what?
They just stand there until somebody else walks by.
Nobody programmed me in AI.
Exactly. There are other bots that use actual pre-programmed pathing, and those ones will still work, obviously. Those are the ones where you see somebody walk off and they always go on the exact same path. They will stop and fight the exact same guys at the exact same spot because it's another bot that they're running into that they're fighting. You have these little bot wars going on. Those ones will still work. The thing is, those are a lot easier for Blizzard to detect because they can see, okay, these exact actions are being taken at these exact times within an acceptable margin of error over and over and over and over and over again by this particular character. If all it is randomly every 30 to 45 seconds casting a shield and following somebody, that's a lot harder for them to detect. So this way, they've actually set it up so that now they can say, okay, we didn't get rid of all the bots, but we are forcing people to use ones that are easier for us to detect and then take action on. So that's really the major effect here, is that it's moving people away from the easier to use bots.
But my dog doesn't bot. All right, moving on. Last week we promised you guys more PvP news, and Arena Junkies has delivered in spades. Yesterday they finally posted an in-depth interview with lead systems designer Greg Street and a new face. His name is Brian Holinka. He is the senior game designer focusing solely on PvP. I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of this guy in the coming weeks and months. Brian Holinka, the new face on the block, meaning the new guy I get to troll.
He's actually, I found his Twitter, by the way. He does actually have a Twitter.
Oh, he's on Twitter?
Been responding to people on. Yeah, it's just his last name, Holinka, at Holinka.
There you go.
Go check him out.
All right, so they started off the interview by asking, well, who the heck is he? So he said, I joined Blizzard around August of 2012, and I was brought on to focus on PvP. My goal is to find out all the things that the PvP community wants to try and reinvigorate the PvP as much as possible. And if you guys do some digging, like our amazing Game Breaker producers have, he's not very new. That would be Josh, by the way. Just give him that would be...
I typed Brian Holinka into Google. I am an internet super sleuth.
He spent 9 months... but he's actually he's not new to game design, so he's got a really solid list of titles that he's worked on in the past. Mostly he comes from first-person shooters. But I think the most interesting thing here is August of 2012. So he's only been with Blizzard a few months, and he's kind of sounds like he's like the man in charge of the P versus P. So it sounds like Blizzard picked up Brian pretty much just to fix PvP. Is that what's going on here?
Well, I think it's certainly interesting how many dramatic PvP changes have been introduced to the game since August of 2012. You're not the only one who can sleuth Josh Allen.
Well, it's interesting too because this isn't actually the first time this has happened. Greg Street at one point actually said that he came into the development team. Yeah, I don't know, some
dude,
crab or something. But he came out of the development team late in Burning Crusade. I believe he actually said it was during Sunwell, like during the Sunwell era, is when he joined the development team. Then Wrath of the Lich King beta started, and all of a sudden, here's Ghostcrawler. Is Ghostcrawler a dude or is Ghostcrawler a chick? What's going on here? But everyone knew that all of a sudden. Seriously, that was a thing.
Is Ghostcrawler a dude or is Ghostcrawler a chick?
It was actually amazing. But all of a sudden, there was Ghostcrawler, and he was like talking to people directly, and then we saw all these major changes to the game happen in Wrath of the Lich King that. A lot of people didn't like them, but I think a lot more people did because that was when World of Warcraft got to the maximum number of subscribers that it's ever hit. So I think this is something that Blizzard just does from time to time, where they're like, okay, we need to get somebody new in here. We need to bring in some fresh ideas, and this is part of how the game has continued to evolve as much as it has over the past coming up on 9 years. Is they'll bring in somebody new. They'll say, hey, let's get some new fresh ideas in here. Hey, you there. Random dude, fix PvP.
Hey,
he's not a random dude. But
hey, random
he's not
dude.
A random dude, but
hey, Brian, look at you, random dude. You come over here and fix us up. Actually, I think that the sort of big, bold changes that are coming in at the moment are exactly what PvP needs. And I've not been that excited about the season just past. I think frustrated would be a better description of my attitude to the season just past. But looking forward, there's some really cool stuff coming, and I really hope that they manage to implement all the stuff that they're talking about.
All right, let's dig into some of the stuff that you're talking about. So let's dig into what he and actually Greg had to say. So Arena Junkies posed the question basically first up, saying, what is the ideal balance point for World of Warcraft PvP? Greg had to say, he said there's a community of players who would be perfectly happy if there were 6 to 7 specs that they had to worry about. And those were really well balanced and had a lot of synergy going on. And they wouldn't have to worry a lot about all the others. Then he says, so on the one hand, we can have very tight focus and probably deliver a very balanced game of relatively few specs. On the other hand, we can get all 34 in there and everyone can have some representation. But it would be a lot harder to deliver on really cool class synergy. Brian then jumped in with, he says, there are many different opinions on what viable means in the PvP community. Whether viable means at a very high end, competing in tournaments, versus where we feel that a highly skilled player can take almost any spec and do very well with it. He finished up by saying, I think there is certainly, like Greg said, times where some classes are stronger than others, but we try to make sure that everyone can compete at some level. That was a lot to digest. Hope you got that. So it's kind of a lot to think about if you really kind of go back and read all that. But it almost seems like they're saying that they're not really worried about balancing everything perfectly, at least at high rating. Is that what you guys are taking away from this? Is it okay for maybe a few specs to be viable at the top end of PvP?
Yeah, viable. What does viable mean? It's a good question itself. I think they've hit the nail on the head with it's really hard to balance it so that everyone can be awesome at PvP versus, okay, let's just make a few classes really good and those will be the spec to PvP on. But I mean, I think there's always going to be the spec that's better than the other specs to PvP on. Holy Paladins, for example, people are complaining and indeed they're working to fix Retribution Paladins, which are low represented only in part because Holy is so ridiculously strong, or has been in this season just past. I mean, it's kind of the same for mages. Frost has always been the mage PvP spec. Fire snuck in for a little bit towards the end of Kata, but Frost has always been the PvP spec, and that hasn't changed. And I mean, it's kind of, if you want a PvP, go Frost. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think that depends very much on your personal choice of character and how you want to PvP, and you know, whether you feel like you want to be an arcane mage and also, you know, really high rated at PvP. If that's what you want to do, then I mean, pursue it. But it might not work as well as it would if you were Frost. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about a couple of weeks back about, you know, people playing the wrong spec for raiding, and it's not the wrong spec, it's just the wrong environment. Josh brought up that point, and I think it's exactly the same with PvP. There's always going to be stronger and weaker. There's kind of, I don't think it's possible to avoid that with such a huge range and variety of specs available.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely a very interesting approach to sort of, like, if I'm reading into what they're saying here a little bit, it's definitely a very interesting approach to say, okay, at the top end, no matter what we do, there's always going to be a better spec for somebody. There's always going to be a better class. There's just, with all of the different mathematical equations that have to go in here, there is not a way to line all of this up, at least not humanly capable way, to line all of this up so that everything is completely and perfectly balanced. So there's always going to be some specs that are just better. As long as everyone can perform up to some degree, like, and that where that degree falls is kind of the, I think the major concern there is at what point do you say, you know, okay, so Affliction Warlocks in PvP, for example, a lot of times you'll see Warlocks leaning towards Destruction or Demonology at the moment, but say Affliction, which does do well enough on its own, it's just not as popular. So at what point do you say, well, Affliction, you know, it's fine as long as you can get up to like the 2400 rating or something like that as Affliction. And that's kind of the big thing here, I think, is a lot of people tend to look at representation as meaning a little bit more than it does, because of like what Olivia was saying just a second ago. Since Holy Paladins are so strong right now, Paladins will just go Holy. Like someone who's really, really, really ridiculously serious about PvP and they want to be the best they possibly can, they'll go Holy. Even if they want to play Ret, they'll go Holy. But then you'll see other people who say, no, I just want to be Ret, and they'll still turn around and do really, really well with it. It's not that the spec is bad, it's that they had another option that was better.
Right, but
so,
what you said is true. They'll do really well with it, but they probably still won't be performing at the top end of their game.
You can, it's sort of a sampling bias sort of situation. You can do really, really well as an Affliction Warlock. You can do you can be a top-rated Retribution Paladin. It's totally possible. It's completely totally
look
doable.
at Vanguards. Look at Vanguards. He's a top-rated Retribution Paladin. Done.
Yeah.
It's doable. It's possible. It's a viable thing to do. It's just not that easy. And I'm not saying it's easy to be a top-rated Holy Paladin either, but there's a lot more people who are higher-rated players who are playing Holy. So therefore, a lot of people, it's like the Discipline priest spec bias in PvE. All the priests are going Discipline. So there's fewer Holy priests who are topping the meters just because of percentage representation. It's exactly the same thing with Holy and Ret Paladins. There are fewer. So it's like a lower percentage that are doing well.
Well, then you kind of hit the nail on the head. The big question here, then it's like, you know, then what does viable actually really mean for PvP? I mean, it's a great term. So it's got a lot of latitude in there, but it kind of has to, doesn't it? I mean, you can't just lock it down, and this is not a black or white sort of discussion.
No.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely means different things to different people. Like if you're sort of a casual, just want to have some fun PvPer, if you've got enough tools to respond to most other classes' abilities, at least in some way, then that might be viable for you. If you're super interested in shooting for Glad, then that might not be viable for you. You might want to have something that's really strong. It's the person. It's dependent on your own expectations.
And I think the absolute most important thing that tends to get lost in translation a lot, this happens in PvE too, the absolute most important thing that gets lost a lot of times that the average player just doesn't think about when they look at a site like Raidbots or they look at a site like Arena Junkies and they see the representation listings and all that sort of thing, is that you kind of have to understand the hardcore mindset. A really, really ridiculously hardcore player, like, from my perspective as a Warlock in PvE, and I know this PvE and PvP are different things, I'm just using this directly as an example of myself. I will play Affliction. I would rather play Destruction. I've got green freaking fire. I would rather play Destruction right now, but its single target DPS is not as good as Affliction's right now. And in fact, I've even been considering going Demonology, which is a spec that I've done no stuff as at all in this expansion. But I will go Affliction on a single target fight because I just want to be as good as I possibly can be. And when you get to that high level of that more hardcore mindset of I just want to be as good as I possibly can be at this game, it falls away from the perspective of I want to play this particular spec anymore.
Yeah.
The top-rated PvP players will pick whichever spec they feel they can be the most successful as, and they won't be upset about that as much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of distracted because I'm watching Bashiak, who's in the chat room talking to everybody and answering questions. No, and he brings up a really good point. I got to bring this one out. He says somebody asked a question, and basically his response was, "We're okay with not every spec being great in every situation." And I think that
Fair enough.
That is a great way to kind of look at it, and that is going to make some people unhappy because their possible spec is maybe always would be at the bottom of the ladder there. But you know what? Like when you have that sort of that latitude of like we're okay with them not all being great. Somebody's got to be at the bottom. Somebody's got to be at the top, or it doesn't exist. It's like having yes to no. It's yin and yang. It's just like you just have to have it. So it makes sense. Well, it totally makes sense to me.
That kind of gets back into what Greg and Brian were talking about in this interview, where they said that, I believe it was Greg that said it, yeah. On one hand, you can have a really tightly focused, really well put together game of like 6 to 7 specs, or you can have 34 specs that all have their own things going on, and that just gets to be a mess, but everybody is viable. And that's kind of what they're aiming for, it sounds like, in PvP balance in World of Warcraft right now, is where at the absolute top end, they have a really, really solid, well put together, again, aiming for, maybe not there right now, but aiming for. They have this really, really solid, well put together setup where there's maybe one spec per class that's actually like viable. And you know that these particular classes are going to pick these particular specs, and those are like that little sub game of the main overall PvP setup is working really, really well. And then as you get away from that extreme hardcore, we're really only doing this for higher rating sort of style of play, which again, the changes in 5.2, there's no reason to push for higher rating just for gear anymore. It doesn't matter. You can be 1200 rated and still get all the gear as long as you're playing. So when you're getting away from that, we're only doing this to be the best we can possibly be in the world environment, then it starts to fill out more, and you can say, okay, well, you can be a Ret Paladin and just have fun and also still be really good. You can be an Affliction Warlock. You can be a combat rogue. You can be whatever you feel like, right? You can do any of this stuff.
You can be a tree.
We're all snowflakes. We're all special.
All
right. Let's move on. They also got Greg to talk a bit about the idea of separating how spells work in PvE and PvP, and I thought this was really interesting. He says that's something we struggle with all the time, and I wish I could say that we've had a vision for it, a way it should always work, but we go back and forth on it a lot. So I got to commend this answer. I mean, Ghostcaller basically admits that the World of Warcraft PvP has no vision. Who's at 11? No, kidding. No, it's a pretty honest answer. It's just sort of like, hey, we go back and forth on this a lot. We don't know if there's an actual right answer here, and we're actually struggling with that as well. He goes on to say, he says, I know a lot of players think that this is the big fix, that once we have a PvP version and a PvE version of every spell, that balance will be perfect. But we really don't buy that, he says. He says, I think for the immediate future, we're going to keep on with this model. We'll make them work similarly as long as we can. But if we hit a point where one set of numbers won't work, he says, then we'll go ahead and fork it rather than spend weeks and weeks of our time trying to come up with a perfect solution that keeps things in balance in both systems.
I love that. I love that word usage there. It's like, if we hit a point where one set of numbers doesn't work, fork it.
Stick a fork in it. Well, fork it.
Ook it, man, in the Duca.
But at least it's something, right? I mean, they'll make a spell work differently in PvE and PvP, but only when they can't come up with a better solution is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, it sounds like that. And I mean, I think it's an imperfect solution. I think it's good that they see this as not something to just sort of be early up in the options that they run through. I think it's good that it's kind of a last resort for them, because I don't know, maybe this is just me personally, but I don't like the idea of having to sort of almost learn two different specs, one for PvP and one for PvE. That doesn't really appeal to me. I like the idea of being able to play my Resto Shaman, you know, have the same stuff at my disposal in PvE and PvP. That is good for me. But on the other hand, you know, doesn't always work like that.
How do you think that would work though? Because I know a lot of MMO players in general. This isn't even World of Warcraft. I've seen this like across the board with players who play MMOs. Is that they're always fighting for like, well, why don't we just get these two different sets of spells that work completely differently in PvE and PvP? I mean, how do you think that would work compared to, you know, the idea of trying to just make everything work differently?
It's interesting. It's a pretty clear-cut case, in my opinion, of trying to design a game from the perspective of a player. Like, you're looking at it and you're saying, I'm a player. I'm tired of getting nerfed because of something that isn't directly related to me, which doesn't always happen to work out that way, but people see that a lot. They'll be like, oh, this got nerfed because of this PvP change. Oh, PvP is evil. We hate PvP. We're PvEers. We hate PvP because they keep getting us nerfed, you know? That's something that comes up all the time, and vice versa. And I think players will look at that and say, just, all right, well, fork it. Just split it.
That's kind of forking it. That's the answer to everything. Just fork you.
We're done.
They
fork
say,
you, Josh Allen.
If this keeps happening, then why don't you just make a separate version of everything? Because that in the mind of an average player will seem like a logical conclusion. Is it will just be way easier to have everything be separate. So first of all, it's not actually that easy. And secondly, maybe even if it is easier to balance a game that way,
do you know how many people you confuse?
I'm
how
sorry.
many? You know how many people would? No, I'm not saying you're confusing. I'm saying if they were to separate them. I'm saying, do you imagine how many players would be completely confused?
Imagine, like, what percentage of players even read patch notes? Like, members of my guild were just like, what is even happening? You know, I understand there's a new island. What goes on there? Why are there dinosaurs? I don't understand.
A new island, by the way.
It's kind of...
Man, I had to catch myself yesterday because I was like, I've been farming rares because I was trying to get on the new island. This is completely on a tangent, but I was farming rares trying to get my tome for my Green Fire quest, and someone in general was like, Prog is up. And someone else was like, what does that mean? And I'm like, God, the patch has been out for a whole 16 hours so far. How do you not know what that means by now?
You guys, like, God.
See, that's this show. That's this show. That's these people in the chat room.
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
Is like,
that's these people who are interested and actually take the time out of their day to come and watch Legendary where we talk about this stuff. Thank you, by the way. Thanks for that. But, you know, it's...
But the thing it sucks is we're kind of a small circle. We're kind of a small circle.
And, like, imagine, like, the people who, like, the guy who, you know, my great friend who plays a rogue just rocks into a battleground one day because he's got nothing else to do, and he's just like, where did all my buttons go? And he's like, he's had it in the Temple of Kotmogu, so he doesn't have a clue where he is in the first place. All his buttons are different. He goes into some water, it all changes again. It's just like,
well, and it's kind of funny when you think about it. Sorry, I'm taking us down this tangent even more at this point. But it's kind of funny, now that the streaming launcher is in place, this just occurred to me, now that the streaming patch launcher is in place, to where you don't have to just sit there and wait while everything is... That has to have gotten a lot... Like, some people didn't even know there was a patch! Like, I logged in and people were like, oh, did the patch come out today? And I'm like, wow, man, like, 4 years ago, you knew there was a patch because World of Warcraft didn't work for a week. It was just not there anymore.
All of your add-ons were just like pure LUA, like covering your screen. That was all it was.
Like people were like,
now it's just
did 5.2 come out?
So basically now Gamebreaker just will rage and hate everyone who doesn't watch this show, because if you watch this show, you're gonna know. So we hate everybody else who doesn't watch this show. Get on. All right, I'm gonna move on. We're gonna talk a little bit about some pretty cool stuff about Dalaran and Blade's Edge arenas. But first I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Netflix. If you guys have not checked this out, seriously, go on over to netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Use that URL and you can sign up for a free 30-day trial for their streaming service. So all you gotta do is use that URL, netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Sign up. If you don't like it, you can cancel at any time before the 30 days are up. And if you like it, the streaming service is like $8 a month, where you can stream to your Xbox, your PS3, your Wii, your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, almost every electronic device known to man. Maybe not a hearing aid, but I don't know. Maybe they're working on it. But definitely check out House of Cards, the Netflix original series with Kevin Spacey getting rave reviews, and it is only on Netflix. So head on over for your free 30-day trial today. Seriously, peeps, if you haven't done this, I don't know why, because I don't know what you're waiting for.
You want to know my favorite new show? My favorite new show, it's on Netflix. Downton Abbey. Haven't watched a single episode yet, but I love it for the fact that people keep going, why does everyone call it Downton Abbey? It's Downtown Abbey.
That's a double face palm from England, okay? That is a...
I just love that keeps coming up.
Double face palm.
Downtown Abbey. The Abbey in downtown. Because we have that here.
It actually, I was looking for it because it actually was on my list of what yesterday.
You passed over it just then.
Oh, did I just now? Because I was going to say yesterday I saw it as they were trying to push it on me, and I was like, "What is this British?"
I've heard it's
British nonsense.
I haven't actually watched it yet.
Where they talk funny.
To me, it's like the equivalent of when someone in trade chat goes, "So does Metroid ever take off his helmet, or is he like Halo?" That's what happens with this show when people start talking about it. It's amazing.
Can we just like I'm gonna troll myself for a second. Can we just look at the top 10 for Gary for a second?
Wow, this is. I thought I knew you, Gary.
You have no idea.
No, this is I'm
this
not surprising.
Top 10 for Gary. Look.
I don't. Yeah, no, this seems.
This is in line with your opinions of what Gary would watch?
I love the ward in there. Just
yeah, that one little dark one is like creeping around. One of these
things is not like the others.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, I've watched The Killing recently. I'd give you a review, but I'm not really sure what it is.
He's been too busy watching Julia Roberts films.
Apparently, my wife and I share the same account.
Oh, really?
Netflix.com/GameBreakerTV. Use the URL today. Go over, sign up for your free 30-day trial. Seriously, you will not regret it. I love their service. Been a fan and a subscriber for so long. Let's move on. Some more arena junkies. They asked a pretty straightforward question involving Dalaran and Blade's Edge arenas. Real quick, what are they asking about here? Was it something about knockbacks and teleports? Something very specific.
Yeah, precisely that. So the Dalaran and Blade's Edge arenas, the Dalaran and Blade's Edge arenas are the two where you've got two levels. So on the Blade's Edge arena, you've got the bridge across the middle on some pillars, and it's quite high up. And the Dalaran, it's in the sewers, and it's the elevated central platform, boxes, stairs at diagonally opposite corners. And to do with the knockbacks and teleports, basically they were talking about a warlock who can jump down, lure casters down with them, and then teleport back up and just be like, lol, chaos balls, and the people are down the bottom going, no, chaos balls, I can't interrupt you because I'm so far away. And again, like Elemental Shaman have a thunderstorm ability which can blow people off the side of things, and Druids have a Typhoon ability which can blow people off the side of things, and I believe the Warlock Succubus has also recently inherited a similar ability. Yeah, so they're saying, these are unfair.
If you have the, I believe you have to have the Shivara pet. I believe it's only on.
Oh, the Shivara. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Which nobody actually uses in PvP.
No, they all use sack. They all use Grimara Sacrifice. Not
you have a sacrifice, or you have a like a Doomguard, or excuse me, a Colorguard out or something. But you can, in theory, be the ultimate dick warlock. You have your little portal up on top of the bridge, and you have your knockback. So you knock somebody off, they come back up, you jump back down, they go back down, you teleport back up, and you just sort of like play the Benny Hill theme the whole time.
Exactly.
And all your dots stick away on it.
It's a vicious cycle.
Or you do what I do with the Warlock and the Shadow Priest, where everyone goes down but the Shadow Priest. The Warlock portals back up. I stay downstairs as bait, and then they kill me a bit, and then Shadow Priest grips me back up. And it's, lol.
Bunch of freaking trolls we breed over here at Game Breaker. All right, well, Brian had a pretty interesting yet cryptic response. He said, I think Blade's Edge and Dalaran Arena were made at a time when knockbacks didn't exist. So all I can say is that we're aware of that and changes are forthcoming this season. This season! before patch 5.4. What do you guys think they're going to do in the next couple of patches? I mean, to fix these arenas up, or do you think they could possibly just remove them?
I don't think they could possibly just remove those arenas as well. Then we barely have any arenas left. We've already lost Ring of Valor, and sure, we've gained Tolvaron, but then we not have many. I would be very surprised. Like maybe they. I can't believe they'd remove knockbacks. I would be amazed if they removed either knockbacks or these arenas, or like remove knockbacks from arena, or remove these arenas from the arena rotation. I don't know what.
I almost wonder if they'll like remove the bridge from Blade's Edge.
Just like make it into a room with pillars. Just make it into.
It's just a room now. Just whatever. Put ramps up on all of the edges of the Dalaran arena, so you could just walk up from anywhere.
No, but it's a strategic element of the map. Like knocking people off of the side of that it's the thing.
Yeah,
you can't just take away our things, Josh Allen.
You can't make it so that I can't go down and then back up, and then down and then back up again.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Shut up.
You're the warlock here. You should be like anti this, bro.
No, because people do it to me more than I do it to them because I don't think of things like that.
Don't have that
That's
skills.
exactly
Why is it Chaos Bolt casting? Ah!
All right, and
Can
of
I
course,
shadow burn yet?
and of course, the number one question that came up was, what about World of Warcraft as an esport? Brian's answer actually may surprise you and may show a little bit of hope. He said, having 34 specs with 34 different spells, that's over 1,100 different spells that the spectator may need to know about. I think the Arena Live add-on really opened our eyes to where we were going wrong and the areas we can improve. He said it's one of these things that we are constantly evaluating. StarCraft 2 is one of the biggest esports in the world. It's just a decision as to whether we want to commit to this and spend a lot of resources on it. And for those of you out there who may not have checked out the Arena Live add-on, it's basically a spectator mode for 3v3 arenas that allows like tournaments like the NAO Invitational to function. I hate to almost bring this up again, but I don't know. Could Blizzard possibly be thinking about an official spectator mode again? He definitely opens it up and says it's not like it's off the table.
Damn it, Blizzard! I write it off, and then I'm like, oh, it might actually be a thing, and then I'm like, no, it'll never happen, but it might happen. No, it'll never happen, but it might happen. It's like what roller coaster of emotions. I don't know what to think anymore.
Stop doing this to us, Blizzard. You're like, yeah, all right, okay, we'll do it. We were inspired by the Arena Live add-on, and you're like, no, it's a bad idea, and I cry myself asleep again.
Well, what about the Arena? What about the Arena Live add-on? Actually, is making them possibly think and take another look at this.
The big thing that they brought up about the add-on in the actual interview is there's like a spell history thing that the add-on actually does, which is actually amazing for trying to commentate and spectate World of Warcraft PvP. What it does is actually just gives a little listing of the most recent spells that everybody has cast. Because a lot of times in arenas, especially, someone falls over and you go, "Oh, well, he's dead now."
There was an unexpected combustion of that player.
Yeah, all of us see he just narcolepsy strikes again. He's down. But what actually lets you do is you go, "Oh my God, he's dead," and then you can look at these little icons and go, "You lined up the Chaos Bolt and immediately followed up with a Shadow Burn, and then there was this thing and this other thing, and all these different CCs went off at the same exact time, and it's amazing! Crowd goes wild!"
Skill explosion.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost the equivalent of the production tab in StarCraft 2, where you're able to see what's going on at any given point in time. It's kind of a similar concept. You can see what just happened, so that then you can deconstruct these situations when they arise. And that, I think, it's kind of a stroke of genius for World of Warcraft PvP commentary, especially in arenas where you'll be maintain, sustain. All of a sudden, someone's dead, and you're like, "Oh, yeah. Well, what happened?" Now you can look and see.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great, that aside, it's just a great add-on. It works, and it works well, and it's pretty straightforward, and it could be used by anybody. And that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing, that there's a spectator mode that's kind of available. And yeah.
I think it's still interesting after 9 years of World of Warcraft's existence. There's possibly still a chance that Blizzard may decide to try and turn this into an esport.
You're just trolling us now.
Well,
I've always kind of wondered if this will be the real long-term end game. Like, it could be a whole, when something else comes along, there could still be an esport. I mean, look at Counter-Strike, right? But,
yeah, and that's something that Mike B would bring up a lot of the time. If Mike B were here today, he'd say something like, I've always said that World of Warcraft will be survived by its PvP. He'd say something like that right now.
Well, I mean, he'd be right. PvP is enduring. You don't run out of PvP content because they're always people. The people are always people, and people have very good AIs. PvP doesn't. You don't run out of PvP like you do PvE.
Well,
that's my
guys,
opinion.
I'm going to have to clue you in on the 2013 term for this. If you guys don't know the buzzword of the industry, it's emergent gameplay. It's emergent gameplay this year. Last year was dynamic events. This year it's emergent gameplay. That means players creating. How do you
shoehorn that into something that's been around since Burning Crusade?
No,
it's interesting that
I'll be pitching VCs next week. Go ahead.
you brought up Counter-Strike, and I think that's a great example here. Counter-Strike as an esport, it was kind of an esport, but it's just sort of been steadily growing ever since then, and it comes and goes. But Counter-Strike 1.6, people still play that like crazy. That game was older than dirt. Like, it's literally actually older than
Is it older than dirt?
I have dirt that was created after Counter-Strike. So, and I think, like I mentioned this earlier too, how World of Warcraft keeps sort of reinventing itself as time goes on. I almost don't think it's fair to look at it from the perspective of this game is 9 years old, there's no way it could ever be an esport, because they could decide tomorrow that they want it to be an esport, and there we go. Now World of Warcraft is an esport. They do that. It happens. Yeah.
Can we subliminally just advertise? Can I just change my books so they spell make World of Warcraft an esport across the spines of my books? I would love that. I love watching arenas. Do it. Just make it an esport already. Come on, Brian. I'm going to tweet you.
Do it. All right. Tons more good stuff in that interview. Going over to Arena Junkies and check it out. But we're going to do some viewer questions. If you guys have questions for the, I was going to say Guildcast crew, but it's not. It's a legendary. See that?
If you have questions for Guildcast, submit them to Guildcast.
If you do have questions for Guildcast, then don't send them to us because
we can't help you.
But funny enough, you send them to the same email address, and that's submit@gamebreaker.tv. So send your questions for the legendary crew at submit@gamebreaker.tv. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/gamebreakertv, and send us your video questions. So first up, this one in from Dan Zinti. Dan says, do you think Blizz made a mistake not releasing at least the first part of Raid Finder with the patch? Such a massive patch ends up feeling somewhat light on content to non-raiders. Liv, what do you think?
I don't think they made a mistake. No, I mean, there's plenty of stuff you can be doing at this point in the patch. You could be killing dinosaurs on the Isle of Giants to get some dinosaur bones, to get other things. You could be
Everybody kill the dinosaur. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You could be killing the dinosaurs. You could be killing some rares and getting some stuff. You could be running the treasure room once a week only. There's plenty of other things to be doing. I don't really buy that it's completely light on content to non-raiders. And also, I think it's nice that they give them a week to play with the normal modes before they release Heroic and Raid Finder at the same time. I think that's a good thing. I'm not entirely sure what my reason is for that. It doesn't spoil the raid content, I guess. It doesn't make it too accessible. It doesn't make normal mode raiders feel obliged, thinking, "Oh my god, I should be running Raid Finder."
Well, and the other important thing to mention, and I was gonna slot this into the thing for Legendary, but then we had so much other stuff to talk about that I bumped it to next week. So maybe we'll talk about this some more next week. But they're actually spacing out the LFR timing a little bit longer than they have in the past, and a big part of that is just because you run out of content faster if you can go through all of it right away. It's just how it works. You run out of stuff to do. So it's maybe for the first couple of days you can't do everything. For the first week you can't do everything. But if it means that the patch lasts longer for you, we're gamers. We will burn through every last ounce of content that we can and then complain that there isn't any more. So pacing is kind of what we have to deal with. It's sort of like, this is for your own good, everyone. This is you just don't eat all of your cookies before dinner.
Can't have your raid finder till you've done your dailies. Okay?
Next up, here's one from someone named MoveTac Jones. Says, what do you think of the 5.2 balance pass? Who are the biggest winners and losers? Class spec. Josh, what do you think?
I think it's kind of funny, like, just from the perspective as a warlock, I think it's probably a bit early to say where balance is overall just yet. It's hard to... That's the sort of thing that needs time to actually flesh out, and then somebody comes up with something crazy. Like, I just found out earlier, Liv was telling me about some bug that you could abuse as a destruction warlock to basically just annihilate people in PvP, and I was like, damn it, why did I never think of that? But that doesn't work anymore, and I'm sad. But
Sorry.
From the perspective as a warlock, I think it's kind of funny that they went to all the trouble of, they nerfed Affliction, they nerfed Grimoire of Sacrifice, they did all these changes, everyone was like, oh, Destruction's going to be the best spec now, and then they were like, no wait, actually Demonology is going to be the best spec now. And if you look at some of the latest theory crafting now that the patch is out, guess what? Affliction with Grimoire of Sacrifice and the exact same stat weights you had before the patch. That's the best single target spec
Best
again.
spec for the DPS.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of funny how many balance changes they went in that, I mean, it's still good, right? They reined in the damage. Affliction was kind of crazy in the previous tier, so they definitely reined in the damage a little bit, so it's not quite as ridiculous anymore. But it's kind of funny looking at all this stuff and saying, okay, everything's actually kind of... They've managed to make a whole bunch of changes without ripping the rug out of everybody. And I think that's actually kind of a good thing.
Yeah, and I would say, if I like naming winners and losers, I think monks have had some pretty chunky old buffs. I know they've had a buff to their healing spheres and the mastery there for healing side. They've had, oh my god, Ring of Peace. I think that may cause a little bit of havoc around the place. I think that's going to be interesting. And I know rogues have had some buffs as well from a PvP side of things. I know they felt they were underrepresented in PvP compared to like being a generic PvP class, and they've given them a few buffs. I think, like I said, I think Josh is totally right. We're going to have to wait and see how it pans out, because they've definitely said that they wanted to reduce the dominance of Arms Warriors, Frost Mages, and also keep an eye on Shadow Priests and put Disc back up in PvP whilst bringing it down in PvE. So, yeah, I mean, that all being said, it's still quite likely that Frost Mages and Arms Warriors are going to be pretty strong in PvP. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, monks and rogues, big winners.
All right, last up, this one from Patrick Crabtree. He says, are the new normal mode encounters too easy? It feels like my guild is plowing through this content. Also, how will this affect people getting burnt out on this tier?
I think a lot of people currently stuck on Horadon would say, no, they're too hard. Please nerf. I think it's always important to remember that the first tier of content in an expansion, the normal mode content, will always be more difficult because everybody's going into that at the same gear level. It's tuned to basically the normal mode content in the next tier is going to be tuned towards people who were only doing normal mode content before, because that's the kind of the progression path. You're a normal mode guild, you're working through normal mode content. But that means that anybody who's been, especially people who've had some time to do heroic mode content, or if you've gotten a lot of valor upgrades, stuff like that, you're going to be going into the content a little bit over-geared. Whereas in the first tier, that was impossible. There was no way to be over-geared going into the first tier of content. So I think that's kind of the important thing to remember there, is that you're always going to have the next tier of normal modes feel a little bit easier than the first tier of normal modes in an expansion.
Yeah, and particularly if you're a guild that is, you know, completing the heroic modes in the previous tier, then yes, of course, the normal modes are going to feel easy compared to the heroic modes that you just did. And that shouldn't be a great surprise. But I think there's a heck of a lot of guilds who haven't completed the heroic modes. I think a heck of a lot would be a massive understatement of that guild quantity. I think I would even go as far as to say that a majority of guilds, a large majority of guilds, I'm going out on a limb a bit here, Josh is going to smack me down in a minute, that haven't completed the heroic content this patch, excuse me. And so then those guilds, the ones who are still like trying to kill Garrelon or something, they're the ones who are going to be like, whoa, okay, we managed to get Jinrock down, but we can't even get past the trash to Horadon. So I think that while the guilds who are rocking the cutting edge achievement, yeah, they're going to find this easy. This isn't the challenge for them. That's the heroic tier.
Yeah, that's next week.
That's next week.
That's us waiting for our PvE content, Olivia Grace.
Shut up, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, follow him on the Twitter at Devolore, DEVOLORE. And of course, go over to tankspot.com, zam.com, watch PST, the weekly marmot, just the tip, all that good stuff. And
so many guides. So many guides coming out. You guys, you have no idea how many guides.
All the guides.
A lot of work to do.
All the guides. All the guides. Tankspot.com for all the guides. Olivia D. Grace, follow her on Twitter at Olivia D. Grace. And of course, go over to GameBreaker.tv and check out Chat Bubbles with Olivia D. Grace.
Yeah.
Chat Bubbles with Olivia D. Grace. If you guys have not seen it, it is their bubbles.
Chat happens in them.
It's actually a show that Olivia does by herself, and she poses questions.
It's not a feature that may or may not finally have made it into Star Wars: The Old Republic.
This is true. This is true. Check it out. Olivia D. Grace, Chat Bubbles, right here on GameBreaker.tv. You can follow me at Gary Gannon, follow GameBreaker TV, GameBreaker TV, and we do the show live every single Thursday at 8 PST. Come on over and hang out for the live show. It's a lot of fun. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week for more Legendary.